Thank you for being with us again. Today we have an amazing guest, Christina Inge. She's an award-winning marketeer, best-selling author, and her new book is coming up, and you guys should buy that. It's called Marketing Metrics. You can buy it on Amazon. The link is in the description. Entrepreneur, digital marketing analyst expert. Christina has about 2 decades of experience leading digital strategy and managing complex marketing technology projects. Oh my God, 2 decades. Is that true, Christina?
It is. I started in marketing back in the 2000s.
Oh my God. So actually, yeah, welcome. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's really a privilege to be here.
Oh, thank you. It's a privilege to have you. So, Christina, about these 2 decades, we have to talk about it right away. You have 2 decades of experience, and it's a traditional question on our podcast. What are the most significant changes you've observed in the digital marketing landscape? What was the first social media platform you professionally work with? Because just for us to understand the scale, and how do you think social media marketing has evolved since then, since you started? I know it's a lot. It's a bit of complicated question, but especially with the rise of new platforms, I'm sure you've seen a lot of platforms come and go. And so what's the biggest changes you observed?
Oh my gosh, I've seen so many changes. So I started in social media, like I said, in the mid-2000s, in marketing even longer than that. And of course, the first platform I started on was Twitter, now known as X, back when it was a niche platform that only a small handful of people were using, to the point where they were literally tweeting at their significant others about what groceries to pick up in the evening, because so few people were on it that it was almost like an instant messaging channel.
Yeah, people used to send
I have seen a
text,
lot
right,
of changes
with their cells to post it on Twitter.
It was just text. There were few characters allowed, and it was just, that was the nature of it in those days. So one of the things that I've seen, and that is the biggest, the most significant that I've seen, honestly, has been, first of all, the fact that platforms change all the time. And also, I've seen a lot of commercialization, and it tends to backfire. In other words, people go on social media to be social, and we always try to turn it into a selling platform. Now, that doesn't mean that you communicate with and connect with your customers online, but it's not a place to aggressively sell.
Yeah, and another following question about your experience. So you worked with well-established brands like Nissan, Smithsonian, Pegasystems, and startups at the same time, and nonprofits at the same time. And how does your approach differ when crafting digital strategies for these distinct types of organizations? Because I don't know, for me, I had no experience with nonprofits or startups, and it probably sounds like it should be the same, right? But with your experience, I'm sure you know the differences in approach of a big company who have a lot of experience in digital marketing strategy, who have with startups who have basically no experience, and with social missions companies like nonprofits. Like, what would be the main difference in approach for these like 3 types of companies?
There actually are both commonalities and differences. I have found that the commonality is, again, with marketing, your goal is to reach your audience. Your goal is to connect with people and help them understand your value proposition, help them understand how can you help them reach their goals, regardless of whether you're selling a product or you're advocating for a cause. The difference is obviously what the goals are for marketing as an organization. When you're a nonprofit, your goals are advocacy, your goals are education, your goals are people in some way within society, behavioral change. And so that's the main difference. The goals are a little bit more diffuse, I think would be the best way of describing it. The goals are a little bit more diffuse. They're not, strictly speaking, just about sales. They're more about educating people. They're more about, and again, obviously for-profit organizations are also about educating people, but they're very much more so around educating people. And so it's measuring those goals. And my whole discipline, marketing, is a lot focused around marketing metrics and marketing analytics. It's how do we measure those goals? When you're a for-profit organization, it's easy to see if you're succeeding, right? You're making money, you're selling product. Of course you're succeeding. But with nonprofits, I'll give you an example. One of the nonprofits I'm working with right now, goal is they are the Civic Courage Awards, Train Foundation, really worthy cause. And their goal right now is more people aware of the concept of civic courage, which is standing up to oppression in situations to do so, and people more educated on the idea. Shameless plug, shameless from Flat World, is how do I measure that? How do I measure that people know something more? Doing that, and you don't have to just buy my book. You know, you can also search online. You can attend conferences, many wonderful ways of learning how to better measure your marketing. But it's that measurability that I think a lot of nonprofits struggle with, especially when the metric of have we succeeded is not it's not donations, it's not people adopting a puppy, it's something very much more diffuse. People who are tempted to throw up their hands and say, oh, there's no way to know whether we've succeeded at that. And that often really hurts nonprofits because they don't know whether they're succeeding or not, so they can't optimize their often very limited marketing budgets to do that are the most effective for them. On the for-profit side, on the other hand, I think the opposite problem is often true. I said it's easy to measure whether you're succeeding because you know that you're making sales. However, I think people will often over-focus in the for-profit world on that last conversion of sales and the whole customer journey of how did we bring people, right? How did we get people to the point where they were willing to buy from us in the first place? And so they miss what elements of their marketing are actually working towards conversions because they're just so focused on, well, what was that last touch point that led to the sale, or what is leading, or even if I'm looking back 2 or 3 touch points, you're still just focused on the sale and not on customer engagement and building deep customer relationships often are months in advance of the sale. And so the simplicity, quote unquote, of measuring your marketing can actually hurt the for-profit world. Very opposite ways from the nonprofit world, where people often, again, don't even have necessarily a metric that they can easily point to, but they're both equally challenging in different ways. And I'm sure if you talk to a branding expert, they would talk about different differences between marketing for-profits and for nonprofits. If you talked to a content marketing person, and of course we a lot of content marketing at ThoughtLight, I wouldn't call myself a content marketing first person. They talk about different challenges. So this is my perspective as a marketing analytics focused person, that the challenge is metrics, and there's equal challenges in both areas. They're just very different.
Yeah, I guess you're right, because it's easy if you work for the profit and you have a profit, probably things go well. But I know a lot of people who work in nonprofits, and sometimes I feel like they're lost in their definition of success. So that's a really great point, that they should measure their success right. They should find a right metric for them. Is it like helping people, like educating people, or anything like that? Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you for sharing with us. So the next question is about like, it's probably very strategical, because I see a lot of companies that have these problems, and I see that some people can find a balance between quantity and quality in their today's content publishing, because today's content-driven marketing world is so challenging, and I see people who post like, I don't know, 8 pieces of content and none of them makes any sense, like it's a Friday pizza party or something like that. Other people just are so focused on their content strategy, they release like a 1 piece of content in 6 months, but it's basically an amazing quality, it's a documentary, something like that. And I wanted to ask you, how would you find the balance between quantity and quality in today's content-driven world? How would you find that?
such a difficult question. You're exactly right, because you can't have very low quantity. And it's not just because of the algorithms, although that's a huge part of it, because your account is going to show up higher on searches on most social media platforms if you're regularly posting content. Same with Google searches, you're going to show up more often in Google. As of right now, we're in September of 2023, frequency of content posting still matters and still has an impact. So if you're posting one thing or writing one thing every 6 months, you're really not going to get the SEO benefits out of it. And by SEO, I don't just mean search on search engines, I mean search on social media as well, because a huge percentage of people now treat social media platforms like TikTok as their search engine. And so you're just not going to get there with that. So what are you going to do? Because you also don't want to just crank out AI generated nonsense. And by the way, I use AI in my own practice all the time. I've used AI to help me write by being like a thought partner, generating first drafts and polishing them for years. I don't have any objection to it. I don't think it's wrong. But what I do see people doing is they think that the AI is going to do for them. It's not for that. You have to generate the content. And so what I'm seeing people do is just try to crank out as much as possible. And it's often just not any good quality at all. And then they wonder why they're not getting traction, they're not getting traffic. Well, it's because they're generating trash, to put it bluntly.
Well, it's not
So what
useful.
do
Yeah.
you do? You don't have all the hours in the day. Yeah, it's not useful. I mean, AI, if you just let the AI run, it's going to generate repetitive, simplistic nonsense.
I mean, it's not authentic, right? It's
It'll read
something
us
that already
sentences
exists.
maybe, but it doesn't have, it's not authentic, and it's not useful. It's repetition and a regurgitation of what's on the web. So what do? You do all day. And is the problem is upstream. It's that attitude of I don't want to spend all day generating content. Content has to be something you care about and respect, and you want to generate a good, steady stream, maybe not a day, but not every summer, of respectable content. If you feel content that, oh, it's a hassle, I don't want to be out here generating all of this content all the time, I'm sorry, don't do content marketing, do advertising. Spend the budget to hire a content marketing agency and cooperate with them by giving them access to your subject matter experts. But don't treat content as an ugly necessity. It isn't. It is a really vital relationship with your organization. I hate it when people treat content as a commodity. Don't do it. Just don't do it. If you're going to treat it as a commodity. So the problem is not, oh, I don't have time to generate content. The problem is, if that's how you feel about content, it's probably not the avenue for you, and you either need to farm it out to other people or have a different marketing strategy.
Exactly. And I see a lot of people, for example, executives who think like, all right, you do advertising, you work with campaign management, you know what, you'll do some content. You're good. You can do a lot of great content, right? But yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, working with content is always complicated, but at the same time, there is like content is all we got. We don't have anything else. It's only the content we produce that's out there that you can like discover about the company or person. So the next question is going to be about your book. I'm sure as a marketeer that you wrote that book in order to solve a problem, right? So it's called Marketing Metrics, and I'm sure that you can help people. It's solving some kind of problems in marketing. Could you share like what inspired you to write this book, and how can you help others, like I don't know, marketers like me, to do something with their life better after reading the book?
Well, I'm a believer in measuring your marketing. I'm a huge believer that you need to understand what you're doing right and understand what you could be doing better in order to have a productive marketing program. You need to be sure that you're spending your money in the right places, you're talking to the right audiences, and the definition of right, going back to the nonprofit versus for-profit world, is going to vary. The right might be people who are the most profitable, or the market most want to expand into, or the people who can most effectively support your cause. Those can all be the right market for you. So marketing analytics is that definition of right. My teaching, as well as in my practice marketing agency that I founded here in 2014, we've been, serving organizations large and small ever since. And we're very picky about the organizations we work with. One of the things that I found is the greatest benefit of doing marketing analytics is sometimes not even the metrics themselves. It's having that time to sit down and be purposeful and reflective in what the definition of success is, because you can't measure what you haven't defined. You can't measure success unless you have defined success. And I'm amazed at how many organizations don't have a definition of what is success, other than let's keep the lights on and the doors open, let's keep making money. But what are the markers that we're actually being successful? Is it a certain net promoter score? Is it a certain amount of web traffic? Is it awareness of our cause? And if so, among whom? Just the general public, or among a particular group of people? These are the really weighty, fascinating conversations to have. And that's where I think people can have a really effective conversation, or as an organization, which is, what is our definition of success? Because that's not just going to help you get there. It's going to help you allow everyone to know where your organization even headed. And that can often be well beyond an impact within marketing. This can have an impact in how your organization defines itself, how you define your mission and vision, how you staff your organization. You might find, for instance, that education is a huge part of what your organization does, and you need to find more people who are educators. You may find that you need to get better at customer service, because that is what sets you apart from your competition as a for-profit organization. And you need to get much more purposeful and hire a director of customer service. You might find that your organization is absolutely on the right path, which means you can move forward with greater confidence. And then you might find that you need to really consider how you're structuring yourselves. And so get good at metrics. Before that, get good at defining what it is that you consider to be success as an organization. And I swear it's going to have much more impact than just marketing.
This is what I like to remind to our audience every time, that we have metrics in order to understand, is this the right path we've chosen? This is why we should have metrics. This is why we have metrics. And this is how Christina's book can help you to find out, actually, are you going through can you make it like a little turn left here or there using your metrics, obviously. So this was awesome. Thank you. So there is another, you've been a part of a lot of things, and you served on the board of American Marketing Association as well. How do you see the role of traditional marketing associations evolving in the digital age right now? Because I know a lot of people, my colleagues, and I'll be honest with you, we don't really understand. We don't really know what's the purpose of that, like why it's there, how can it help marketers, people, well, how can it help anything? So can you help us to understand what's going on there, and how can it be helpful, and why is it helpful?
When I was coming up as a marketer, again, over 20 years ago, everything was, traditional marketing is over. We're just going to have a Twitter account, and then marketing will be free, and we'll just sell for very little effort. And people realize that that's, a delusion. And so then we try to figure out, well, what is traditional marketing for? Is it necessary? And of course it is. And just to make sure we're all on the same page, I would call traditional marketing print, television, radio, including, I would say, even podcast ads, out of home, like billboards. Even if they're digital billboards, I would consider all of that traditional. And one of the things I'm especially seeing in my practice over the last couple of years is that we are getting more proficient at integrating traditional marketing integrating plans. It's absolutely necessary. You do need to sometimes consider having a radio spot. You do sometimes need to board. And so one of the things that I've noticed that we're getting better at, you can take out a TV ad that's targeted to a specific geographic area and specific demographic for very small money. I work with local restaurants, local businesses of all kinds, and TV advertising was completely beyond their reach for many years. It was just too expensive. It was just too high stakes. You couldn't test it because everything was, I'm going to need to spend tens of thousands of dollars or at least thousands of dollars on an ad. And now you can do it so much more cheaply. So I think the vendors have caught up with the way in which we as marketers and our clients now want to do our marketing, want to buy our marketing space, which is affordably, flexibly, and with the ability to quickly test and course adjust. Now that it's more available and now that it's easier to do things in that way, I think the traditional marketing is actually have more of a role in the marketing that people do, because we can now buy media on traditional channels like TV and radio and billboards a lot more readily, similarly to the ways in which we were able to do digital media. So I think it's all becoming much more integrated. And then I would say in terms of approach, people have become much more realistic about what digital media can do. They understand that it's just a marketing channel like anything else. It's not free. It's not easy. Meeting people's needs, communicating with them clearly and honestly and ethically. None of these are things that you can just snap your fingers and do. And so I think that we've become much more realistic in how digital media needs planning, same as anything else. Digital marketing needs to be thoughtfully created. Going back to your content marketing question, you need to be thoughtful and purposeful in the way in which you are doing your media spending and your content creation. And so I think we've gotten to be much more realistic, and that has absolutely helped make digital and traditional much more integrated moving forward.
Awesome. This is the point. I just had a discussion with another professional in the field, and he started to ask me about metrics in radio. Like they use some kind of software like to measure the audience. And I was like, what is that? Like, that's so fascinating. Do you measure your radio listeners? Like, oh my God, I haven't listened to a radio in like, I don't know, 10 years. I'm like, oh my God, this is something incredible. And they've been like, the guy was surprised as well. He said, you don't know about that? I'm like, no, I don't. Like, I have no idea about that. So it's fascinating. Thank you for sharing with us. It's a traditional approach. We always should understand that this is the fundamentals and the basics of everything we do right now. And digital space is only a new tool, a new way to express a traditional marketing approach. Well, at least I think so. So now we understand why do you need that kind of association, and why would you want to be a part of that? And the next question, I just want, with all your experience, you have a book coming out, you have lived through probably all the social media ever, but I just sometimes I want to show our audience that our guests are mortals too, and they do mistakes sometimes. That just proves that, we all do at some point. So I just wanted to ask you, can you share an example of a digital marketing campaign that didn't go as planned and lessons you learned from it? Because I have a bunch. I'm sure every listener, every marketer, every business person has a bunch. Maybe you have something interesting.
Yes. A couple of them stand out. I would say, I hate to harp on metrics all the time, but when a campaign has failed to hit its mark, and I honestly say most of the time the marketing campaign not going well tends to be around, it does not generate as much traffic as we hoped, or it does not get the ROI in some other way. ROI means return on investment. In other words, we don't get the results for our investment that we hope. We spend a lot on advertising, we don't get a lot back. It almost always starts in the same way. And I can give you an example. We had a client who was very adamant that their target audience was young people. I won't name names because I love all of our clients, genuinely think everybody is the expert on their business. But one thing you can do is you can get a little overcommitted to the idea that your customer is, let's say, young people because you think they ought to be. And they didn't have any data to back this up because they had always been a B company and they were going B2C. They had always sold through channels and not actually had any direct communications with their customers. So they had no data on this. And I own everything that has ever gone wrong. At the end of the day, I'm the boss, and I should have said, as the consultant, I don't think that this is your target audience. It could be, could not be, but we do not have any data on that. I was much younger and much less assertive in those days. And so I was more of a yes person. And so I said, yes, we will advertise to those folks, despite my misgivings that we don't have any data on it. And we ended up having a month where the ROI was very poor. We were spending more than we were taking in sales. And that's when I finally worked up my nerve, which now I have no problem telling people they have stupid ideas if, I'll do it more nicely. And again, I love this client. It wasn't a stupid idea at all. It was simply a not data-driven idea. So I want to walk that back. Nobody's ideas are stupid. It's just, is it a data-driven idea or not? So I was not very assertive, and I just let it run when I, in my heart, had confidence already at that point in the data analytics we had, and the tools were nowhere as good as they are right now. But I still knew that the data was good and trustworthy, even if there were holes in it, even if there were gaps in it, because we didn't necessarily have all of the great tools that we have right now. So we course corrected, we started working on the data, which showed that their target audience was actually much older, much more mature, had different needs. We did a focus group. We also looked at the social media data. We looked at the conversion data. We then built an email program. And from there, we also ended up having excellent data from our email marketing campaigns, like click-throughs and opens, and seeing who the real target demographics were. And we found it was completely different. And so I would say there's 3 real lessons learned from there. One is trust your data, even if you have misgivings on, oh, we don't have the latest and greatest tools. We don't have the $10,000 or $20,000 analytics platform. The tools are getting better and better, and even your Google Analytics will give you much better data than you think. 2, your gut can mislead you. Always trust your gut if it's absolutely setting off alarm bells and saying, don't do this, or absolutely we have to go in this direction. But if you're just thinking, it feels like this product, this dress or this sweater or this, chair is absolutely something only the young will buy, that may be your own biases, that may be your own wishful thinking, or maybe you're thinking negatively, or you're just stereotyping people. Your gut's going to mislead you when you think about your consumers. We're always wrong about our consumers until we actually talk to our consumers. So those are the 2 marketing lessons learned. And I would say there's also a deeply personal lesson learned here that I've always taken to heart since. Grow a spine. A lot of times as marketers, especially when we are new, I think a lot of women marketers make this mistake as well. And I don't want to stigmatize anybody, because a lot of times it comes from a deep position of having been talked over your whole life, or having been told that you the tactical execution and nobody really listens to your ideas. And then after a while, even when you are in a position where now people are looking to you for leadership and guidance, you may not have the confidence of your convictions. You're smarter than you think. And if you're in a room where nobody's taking you seriously, as fast as you possibly can, find another room. And know when you're in the room where you will be taken seriously, and don't just be a yes person. Sometimes you have to humor the butt. I spent way too many years where people were looking to me for leadership and guidance, and I didn't believe them, and I expected to be treated the way I was early in my career, told to go fetch coffee. I just want to give a shout out to everybody who's been in a position like this. I was at a startup right before I started ThoughtLight, my own marketing agency. And I had a boss who, I won't say anything other than to say that my first week there, I was a senior director, and he pointed to me and he pointed to our receptionist and he said, you and the other girl go fetch us some chairs. We were the only women in the room. It took me many years of being constantly treated to a wide buffet of that kind of behavior, where I didn't expect people to take me seriously. And I thought yes was the only thing I was allowed to say. And not only did I harm myself in that process, I feel bad for clients that I had when I was unassertive, because we always did our very best. I always did my very best. And at the end of the day, this client, I ended up producing a lot of really high ROI marketing for them. We ended up going from that situation that I just talked about to being in a position where we generated 13,000 website visits and $50,000 in sales on a $5,000 marketing. So this was a small project. This was a very small project. I learned my lesson there, but I feel bad for the way I was back in those days. And I'm very glad I've put it past me.
Thank you for this is a really valuable lesson. First of all, guys, if you have no data, don't expect to be successful right away. Always say like, we'll make a bunch of mistakes right now, probably first couple of months, but we'll get the data and then we can be successful. Then we can correct our course. So that's totally normal. But yeah, this is well, you had an amazing path. You are who you are right now. And well, I can just say congratulations, because you've made an incredible success in everything you've done. I understand you. I understand your feelings about your clients that you had, but we always have to grow, and that's probably a totally normal thing. So thank you for being with us. And then I want to ask you this very serious question, probably the biggest question we had today. So what kind of advice would you give to new businesses, to new marketers who just started working on their digital strategy, or maybe they want to improve their strategy? Maybe your agency you found, Thoughtlight, can help. Maybe your book can help. How can you help the marketers and businesses in order to get their ROI, in order to get what they need, please?
Well, we're human, we're real, and we will always tell you the truth and help you grow. We are here to help your organization. We work with a wide range of organizations. Again, we work with organizations large and small, I like to say. We have worked with everybody from one of the big four accounting firms, not allowed to say that, anything else, to individual authors. We've worked with, like I said, I've worked with the Smithsonian, with Nissan, with Pegasystems, and I can tell you, we take learnings from every project, every organization that we've worked with, and we are all about helping organizations grow and reflectively build a better organization, not just in marketing, but in how you serve your customers, how you connect with your customers, how you are able to grow your business in different directions. So we're here, we consider ourselves, I always say we're a learning organization. We're here to learn about our clients, learn about their needs, and help them learn more about their customers and about what works in their marketing and what doesn't work. And that's what makes it so very rewarding. So you work with us at Thoughtlight, and we're very data driven, 200% ROI on any campaign that we launch. One of the things you want to do, regardless of whether you're doing it in-house or whether you're working with another agency or you're working with us, is always be learning, always keep your mind open. Like you said, expect that there's going to be implementation, expect that there's going to be back and forth, expect that you are going to learn more and more about your customers or your target audience the longer you work with them. Don't go into marketing thinking that you have all of the answers. Your customers have all of the answers, and it's in listening to them that you're going to absolutely build a robust and flourishing organization that's going to grow and be highly profitable.
As I always say, our job is basically to connect our audience and the businesses with their audience, and that's probably it. And you can read it in Christina's book, Marketing Metrics, out now. The link is in the description. And thank you for being with us today. We had a lot of thoughtful insights. I'm sure this was very useful piece of content, and our audience really profited of it. Thank you for being with us, Christina.
Thank you again for having me on. And Anton, it's been absolutely wonderful having this conversation.